Welcome back to Where in the World, where we have real conversations with young professionals about life and career, all while attempting to guess where in the world they are. From time to time, we'll learn something new about our guests and what it's like to forge your own career path as a young professional. And when we say young, we're really talking about a state of mind. You'll learn by watching this web series that your career will take many dips and turns over time. And just when you think you've made it, you might have to scrap it all and start from scratch. Sometimes that's just the way it goes. We ride the tide. I am your host, Clary Johnson, and Georgina Miller, Crabapple Communications, with Crabapple Communications, joins us today. Georgina is a brand and marketing strategist and fractional CMO from Denver, Colorado. She also produces a monthly newsletter, Crabapple Communiques, that I personally found enjoyable to read and has great communications tips and updates about what's happening in her world. The big, hairy question we're asking today is how can young professionals stand out and create value and remain competitive in an age of artificial intelligence? But before we get started, let's do some housekeeping. This is a mini web series game show. The questions will range from standard interview like questions to more personal questions about our guests' careers. You'll notice we're both here today with different backgrounds. In between questions, we'll each have an opportunity to guess where in the world the other person is. The first person to guess correctly wins. Our guests can ask for clues along the way, and our audience can also help out by asking for clues. So I'd like to get started by welcoming Georgina.
Hi, Clary. Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you for coming on the show. We met through a mutual network, which spiraled into weekly support calls and check ins. And now you and I talk each month. And I enjoy those conversations so much. You always leave me with something to think about and gnaw on, and something new to consider. I love the way you think and the way that you problem solve. And your accent just makes everything sound 10 times better than I'd ever say it. So I'm really looking forward to this conversation today. And I think our guests are also going to have a lot of fun learning from you as well. So let's kick it off with our most commonly asked interview question. Tell us a little bit more about yourself and your background.
Okay. Well, it's taken a few twists and turns, as you're saying in your intro. I doubt anybody's career is completely straightforward, but mine has certainly taken me across a couple of continents and through some different iterations that I didn't necessarily anticipate, but have been an adventure along the way. So I did not study marketing, communications, anything like that. I actually started out by studying languages at university in the UK. And the reason I did that was because I love words. I love reading. I love writing. I love talking. I love like just the communication of it all, because that's what it is at the end of the day, communicating with other people, and words is what we have as humans. And so I kind of wanted to do more of that. And so when I came out of university, and I still didn't really know what I wanted to do. And I was looking into various career options, thinking journalism, because you write, or teaching, or interpreting, or translating, which is the traditional language careers, and came across PR, public relations. And I was like, okay, that might be a good thing to try because it's a mix of kind of the writing, but also talking to people and coming up with some creative, fun ideas. And so that's where I started. I actually got an internship in Germany as my first job. The languages I did were French and German. And so while I was at my internship, I spent quite a lot of time kind of semi-interviewing my colleagues to find out how they had managed to reach that position in their careers, and what they got out of it, and just to see if what they said about their motivations and experiences and what they enjoyed resonated with me, or whether it was very different to what I wanted to do. Because I was 21 and I didn't have a clue. So then I stayed in PR for kind of just doing that for about 7 or 8 years. But I moved countries. I went from a big international agency where I did a lot of international travel around Europe predominantly, to a startup PR agency, because one of the themes of my life and career journey is that I love a challenge. So I decided, with 5 or so years of experience in one area doing one thing, that I was going to do something completely different. And then after a few years doing that, when I met my now husband, we decided to come to the States. He's American. And I thought that I would get a job here once I got a work visa. So started freelancing with agencies back in the UK until I got that. And then I got the position of head of marketing at a tech startup. I was kind of global head of marketing here in the US, and in charge of kind of the global reach. And that was a very big learning curve for me. That was coming from a world of quite specific kind of work within PR to the wider world of marketing, and being in charge of everything from the website to our media buying to like sales messaging, a whole bunch of stuff that I'd never done before, was dramatically underqualified to do, and the youngest person on the senior team by about a decade. So that was fun. And then that company was acquired, and I thought I'll get a job with zero network this on this continent, like knowing no people. And so when that didn't really work, I decided to set up my own business. And that's now 4 years ago. This is my 5th year of running my own business. And I have in that, and again, when I started my business, I thought I would be doing one thing, and I'm doing a very different thing to what I anticipated. So it's still a learning curve.
Yeah, thanks so much for sharing your journey with us. It's really interesting because our stories parallel in some ways. So I'm also in the communications field, and what stuck out to me is you were talking about how you weren't exactly sure what it was that you actually wanted to do, but you knew that you loved communications and you wanted to do something in that field. And that was what led your exploration into all of these different areas of communication, which eventually led you into PR, which eventually led you into marketing, which eventually led you into entrepreneurship. And so that to me is just kind of this testament to anyone who's watching who's like, I'm not exactly sure what I want to do, but I know what I like. Follow that light, follow that guide, and allow it to take you on these really interesting paths, because you never know where it's going to lead. And what I found is that throughout my own career and these different checkpoints and these different steps that I've taken, I've picked up on some pretty cool skills and some new skills that always help me in that next step of my journey. And so, definitely follow your heart, follow that light, follow what interests you and what you enjoy, and see what comes of it, because you never know. The other thing that really stuck out to me, and we're going to talk about this a lot more in this episode, is when you were talking about the challenge and the thrill of the challenge. And you actually mentioned working as a head, leading marketing and communications at a global scale, but feeling totally underqualified and unqualified to do the job, and being really young, right? And what that must have felt like to be in a position like that, with so much power, with so much authority, with so much responsibility, but also feeling like, am I really qualified to do this? Am I really ready? And what's interesting is you went through that process and you went through that experience. And at the end of it, you were totally qualified. You'd already done the job, right? And so a lot of times we can hold ourselves back from taking a leap of faith and trying something new or taking on that challenge, because we're in our own head about our worthiness and whether or not we're even ready or qualified to do the job. But once you do the job, now you're qualified, right? And so give yourself that permission to step boldly into that challenge, to take it on and see what comes out on the other side, and how you fare. And you might find that you were more qualified than what you thought. So, uh, this is going to lead us into our next question. But before we do, you guys know how this works. We've got to take a break and take some guesses as to where in the world the other person is. Prior to this interview, I've already guessed Colorado, so I did, maybe I cheated a little bit. Uh, you know, um, and we are not in Colorado, so I can tell us there. So, Georgina, you are in Colorado right now. That is your hometown. That's your home base, but your background is somewhere else. So,
Yeah,
this will be a podcast. I'm going to describe to our guests what I'm seeing. So,
I'll move aside so you can like see a bit more. There you go.
yeah. Okay. Beautiful. Excellent. So we've got a beautiful landscape here with rolling mountains. I see green everywhere. So there is green at the base of these mountains as you go higher. It doesn't look like snow, but it's a lot more of kind of like that clay look. So like kind of a grayish look to the mountains. And then as you go deeper into the, as you go deeper into the gorge, you start to see some greenery there. So lots of
Mm.
grass, some trees, I'm sure. It does look like the Grand Canyon in some way, because of you have the high mountains and then you have kind of this low, it looks like even a trail. Like if I walked, I could probably walk on that
Yeah,
trail.
I think there's some little bits of snow. I mean, this is very much a summer photo.
Okay.
So I think you can see little patches of white. In the winter, these mountains would be covered by snow.
Okay. Okay. So in the winter, the mountains would be covered by snow. And then you did mention that this is a summer photo, which I can tell from that because the sky is so blue with wisps of white clouds. And then I see a beautiful, it looks like a sun rising or sun setting in the background. And there's just like this angelic halo that's just covering you, Georgina. So I'm going to take my guess. And so I have a strategy for how I do this. There are 7 continents,
Hmm.
so I typically start with, are we here in the United States, or um, are we not in the United States? I'm going to guess that we are somewhere in New Zealand.
No,
We're not in New Zealand.
no.
Okay. I don't know why I guess news. I do, because Lord of the Rings. Um, okay, so we're not in New Zealand. Can you give me a clue about this place?
Would you like me to give you a continent?
Or yeah, sure. Yes, yes.
Okay, we are in Europe.
We're in Europe. Okay, that narrows it down quite a bit. That narrows it down quite a bit. So we're in Europe. There are very large mountains here. Um, a canyon, and this is summer months, but in the winter this would be covered by snow. Okay, that helps a lot. Excellent. All right, well, I've taken my guess and now it is your turn.
Okay, so I don't think that's a volcano because it looks too flat. And there are things like there's a little thing around it, and I can see a fence. So, and it does look there's a fence all around it, so it's somewhere that people go. Is it in the US?
This is not in the US.
It's not in the US.
This is not
Okay.
in the US. But let me give you a clue
Okay.
about this place. So the country where this place, well, actually, before I do that, would you like to describe what you're seeing?
Yes, of course. So
Okay.
basically, I mean, it looks like the mouth of a volcano, but on flat ground. It does look like the opening into hell or something. Like it's a pit. It's a fiery pit. It's yeah. So you've got a crater and you've got lava or something that's on fire inside. It looks, yeah. It looks like one of those places where they mined too deep and they tapped into some. No, actually, yeah, no. I was thinking it's one of those places where they mined too deep, tapped into a gas, like subterranean gas, and it's always on fire, but that looks more like lava or something. Like it looks like some rock is hot. So that's
You're
what
a
I'm
lot
thinking.
closer than what you think. Okay,
Okay.
that's all I'll say. So you said couple things. The first thing that you said, you said it looks like the pit of hell. That is very close to what the actual name of this place is. And you also mentioned that it looks like um, it was a mistake, a man made mistake. And I'll confirm with you, and that'll be my clue, that this was a man made mistake.
Mm, I think I might have heard of this. I just don't know where it is or what it's called,
Well,
but
hold
we'll
on
get
to that because we're going to get to it on the next question. All right, cool. All right, so when we were preparing for this interview, you did mention that you like a challenge, and you did say that in your previous answer to your answer to the previous question. You said that you like to find the difficult route. Most of the time, we're looking for the get quick rich scheme. We're looking for the shortcut. We're looking for the easy way out. Can you tell us more about the value of embracing challenges as young professionals?
Mm. Um, I think challenges and doing new and difficult things for the right reasons, and I'll go into that caveat in a bit, but challenges are important in helping us grow because it was a challenge the first time we rode a bike. It was a challenge to learn to walk. It was a challenge to do any of those things we did as a kid. And like, none of us are finished in our 20s. We're not finished in our 30s. We're not finished in our 40s or 50s or 60s. Like, there's always room for development and growth. Um, and so to really know what you're capable of, you have to challenge yourself. You have to kind of try new things and move out of that comfort zone. Um, but it is kind of within for the right reasons and within reason. Because I'm not advocating that everything has to be hard all the time. Often, if something is really difficult all the time, then it's just not for you. But if there is a challenge that is worthwhile and you want to do it and you want to try something new, then it's worth pushing through with that because don't know what might come out the other side. You might do it really well and that's great and you loved it and you want to do more of that and you really learned something about yourself. You might do it and hate it and then you never need to do that thing again. You might crash and burn, in which case you never need to try that thing again. So I think just the challenge a lot of the time is a way for us to learn about ourselves.
Well said. And what I'm hearing when you talk about this is a lot of times when we approach challenge, it's not the challenge that makes us uncomfortable, it's our fear of the results of what's going to happen once that challenge is over, right? Like, am I going to crash and burn? I'm afraid of what crashing and burning looks like. I like that scares me, right? Am I going to fail? I fear failure. I don't want to fail. I can't fail. That creates anxiety for me. Am I going to embarrass myself? Are people going to look at me weird and say, this person totally embarrassed themselves? They don't know what they're doing. They took on something that was bigger than they were. What were they thinking? They shouldn't have even put themselves in that position in the first place. I'm afraid of what other people are going to think about me and how they're going to see me, right? But it's not always necessarily the challenge that we fear, it's the result of that challenge. And what I hear you saying is like, give yourself the opportunity to succeed, guys. Like, give yourself a chance to win.
Yeah,
Give
yeah.
yourself a chance to learn something new about yourself that's going to prepare you for that next challenge, that's going to get you ready for the next opportunity, right? And so whenever I'm working with clients, we when we talk about challenges, we also have to talk about the opportunities,
Mhm,
right? Because they go
mhm.
hand in hand. Where there's a challenge, there's an opportunity. Where there's an opportunity, and where there is something that's worthwhile, which is something that I heard you say, when it's a worthwhile challenge, there is a worthwhile opportunity on the other side. But when we stop ourselves from even facing the challenge, we're not even giving ourselves permission to discover the opportunity that's on the other side of that.
Yeah, and I'd say that if if challenging yourself is something that makes you very uncomfortable, um, a good start is, as you have been kind of saying, like, why does that make you uncomfortable? What is it about this situation? Is it fear of failure? Is it fear of other people? Is it like what is it that's holding you back? Because I think that will help you learn a lot about yourself. And if it's something that you're nervous about doing in your career, then maybe do start out with some challenges that are more personal. And I'm not saying like I found that when I turned 30, everybody in my life was either having a baby or running a marathon. It was like everybody had something to prove to themselves that they could do these things. So I'm not saying you need to suddenly sign up to a marathon when you've never run, but like, what's that little thing that you'd have always wanted to try and you never have because you've been a bit nervous about it? Because it's about exercising that muscle, like getting used to the small challenges before you can do the big ones. Like I had I'd gone through the whole of the US immigration process to come to this country. And I had taken kind of a leap of faith with my relationship, and I had left my family and friends a long way away and started over. Compared to that, me taking on a job where I was like, "It'll be fine. I'm sure I'll learn." It didn't seem that big of a deal. So I think kind of exercising that muscle and getting used to doing things that are a little bit outside your comfort zone can be really helpful to get ready for the bigger challenges.
Beautifully said. Beautifully said. And speaking of challenge, I'm challenged right now because I have no idea where you are, but I have a guess. And this might be unfair because we're in Europe. It's a mountain range. I have to guess this because earlier in season one of my guests took me to this place.
Okay.
It was actually the first episode. She took me here. Are we in the Swiss Alps?
No.
Okay, we're not in the Swiss. So we are in Europe.
Mhm.
We are not in the Swiss Alps. Tell us a little bit more about this place.
About this place. Okay. So, um, these like a specific mountain range or the country or like
Both, both,
okay.
either
Okay.
or. Yep.
So this country is a relatively small one in Europe. It's more Southern Europe.
Ooh, okay. By the
Mm.
way, we are allowed to use Google on this show. So I'm going to pull up my Google Maps.
I mean, that's fair. I'm pulling up Google Maps.
Yes. And but I've already guessed. So
Okay.
we're not in Europe. We are, but I'm sorry, we are in Europe. We're not in the Swiss South, but we are in Southern Europe. Europe
Okay.
is a very big place. Um, okay, great. So with that being said, it is your turn to guess.
Yeah, so yours, it's a man-made accident. It's not, is it in South America?
This is not in South America.
Not in South
We are
America
not in South
either.
America.
Um, can I guess again? Can I
If you'd like to guess a place, yes.
like a specific country?
Sure, yes.
Okay, so not in oh, um, okay, are we in China?
We are not in China.
Okay, I thought I'd
However,
go a bit left field.
well, you're close. You're close.
Oh,
You're
okay,
not
physically
far off.
close?
Physically,
Like,
you are close. Yes.
okay, I'm on the right continent.
You
Okay,
are you
okay.
are on the right
Because I was
continent.
thinking like flat. Oh,
Oh, wait a minute.
okay,
But
okay,
wait a minute. Let me give you a clue
okay.
about this place.
Mm.
Okay. So there is life in the flames of this place.
Oh,
So,
fascinating.
yeah, so the National Geographic expedition revealed that some unusual life forms were thriving in the inhospitable conditions of this crater. The microorganisms are part of a class of living things known as extremophiles because of their ability to flourish in extreme environments.
Okay. It's not called something like Hell's Mouth, is it?
It's not Hell's Mouth, but you are close. You are
Okay.
close. With that being said, let's
Yeah.
move on to our next question. Cool. All right. So, when young professionals face challenges, there can be a lot of feelings of fear, anxiety. Maybe we're tempted to give up. How can we think differently about challenges in a way that makes them less scary?
Hmm. I kind of have two approaches to this. The first is to know why you're doing this challenge and like, is it worth it? And I know that sometimes the challenges are imposed upon us, like particularly when you're in a professional setting and your boss is set you some stretch goals and you have to do these things. So it's kind of like, are you doing it because you want that promotion, you want that pay rise? Like, why are you being pushed outside your comfort zone? If this is a challenge that you yourself want to take on, then it's kind of knowing why that is and what's the motivating factor that's going to keep you going when things get tough. I also like to give myself grace because I put a lot of pressure on myself, but and um, sometimes things just don't work out, and sometimes things shouldn't work out. Because so, for example, in a completely unrelated example, but I do a lot of hiking and mountain climbing here in Colorado, and sometimes you get three-quarters of the way up and the weather changes, or you're tired, or you turn your ankle, or whatever, and you don't make it to that summit. And that summit was your goal, and that's the whole reason for being out here today. And sometimes the right answer is not to summit; it's just to get down safely and to have enjoyed the experience. And there's always a next time. So I think sometimes giving yourself this is how my mind works, giving myself the grace to abandon will often keep me going longer than like forcing myself. My other approach to challenges is just to do it scared. And I that is how I've done it most of my career. Just essentially fake it till you make it. Pretend that I am confident and I know what I'm doing and that everything and it usually is fine. Or in a non-work example, when I moved to this country, I had to learn to drive again because I didn't drive for over a decade. So I had to learn to drive on the other side of the road in a very different environment, much bigger cars, much bigger roads. Um, And that's something that I just had to do scared. There was no easing into it. Like, you get onto the freeway, nobody else cares that you're scared. You just have to drive it.
Okay, we have to talk about what freeway this was. So there, United States is a very big place, different types of drivers in different areas. Where, when you first moved here, where were you starting?
Oh, okay. Well, so when I first moved here and when I first learned to drive again, I was actually living up in Leadville,
Okay.
which is this very small town at 10,000 feet high up in the mountains. Again, because I love a challenge. And so I actually learnt to drive again in a 17-foot truck, a pickup truck. I passed my test in this tiny little town of Buena Vista. It was kind of the easiest place I could have passed my test. But then I moved down to near Denver, And there's a lot more, um, yeah, a lot more interstate driving, and there's I-70, and driving I-70 for the first time with all the cross-country trucks into the mountains. Yeah, that was
So let me tell y'all, okay? So I used to live in California. I have done the cross country trip 2 times. So
oh,
from
that's a lot.
y- y- yes, or sorry, no, actually, I take that back. I've done that cross country trip 3 times from Chicago to Los Angeles through Colorado. And let me tell you guys, driving on windy, mountainous, cliff-side roads, especially in the winter, is treacherous. It is the scariest thing, and so you do like a challenge. If you had not driven in over a decade and that's where you were learning, you know, more power to you, because it's scary. It's scary. It is very dangerous. Not only are you competing with, as you mentioned, the truckers, and they actually have, when you drive on those roads, they actually have spaces. They've created spaces where
Mm,
and when you see those signs and you're driving and you see exit for a runaway truck, it strikes fear into your bones. Okay. There are areas for runaway trucks where there's kind of like an off ramp where they can just go and I guess run away.
yeah, it's because
Run
their
it.
brakes overheat going downhill, and they're gone. And so, like, there are a couple where yeah, they're very steep, and it's just gravel. And so these massive 18 wheelers, they go up and they don't come back down because they get stuck in the gravel.
And
Yeah.
you're driving along in front of these massive 18 wheelers, behind these massive 18 wheelers, in addition to falling rocks.
It's not
And
all the time.
And that's not including the ice on the road. So, with that being said, I just wanted to validate you and say yes. You do like a challenge, and driving through Colorado it can be treacherous, but it's also very gorgeous, very beautiful place. Would I do that drive again? Sure. I think I would it not anytime soon, and it would have to be with a group of people. I think I would have to be taking my time a lot more. I recently did that trip in 3 days,
From
and
Chicago to LA?
from Chicago to LA.
I mean,
Yes,
that's a lot.
by myself with my
Oof.
dog. Yeah. I would not do again,
Mm.
but if I were taking my time, if I was stopping, visiting friends, absolutely I would do that. All right, cool. So, um, you said a lot of really great things about choosing your challenge, and I think for me, I chalk a lot of things up to my zodiac sign. I am a Taurus, and one of the things I have had to practice is giving myself grace to abandon. But I don't think I do that enough. I think I hold on to things. I want to see it through to the end. I don't want to give up, and that's because it takes a lot for me to even start. And so if I've invested so much into starting, it's really hard for me to give up, to
Mm.
abandon. And so I think what you're saying is right. It's knowing, and this is a place where we've got to check in with ourselves, guys. You have to really have a strong grasp on your intuition and your feeling state about what feels right, right? And knowing when to abandon, knowing what challenges to choose is one big part of it, but also knowing how far to take that challenge is another one. And being able to know when you've gotten the lesson that you
Yeah.
need to move on and to move forward. So, really great things that you mentioned there. With that being said, I would love to move forward with this and guess where you are, because we are in Southern Europe and I don't feel any closer with that knowledge. There are, it looks like, um, at least. it looks like at least 120 mountain ranges in Europe from
That's why I
what I'm
gave you the
looking at.
continent. I didn't think it was an unfair advantage.
Yeah, I mean, you have given nothing away.
Would you like a
So,
clue?
I'm sorry.
I can give you a clue.
Can you please give me a
Yeah,
clue?
okay.
Yes.
Are you allowed to use Wikipedia as well? Because I can give.
Yes, yes.
Okay, okay. So this was in Southern Europe, but this country, because I was Wikipediaing myself before this, was never part of Yugoslavia.
The country was not a part of
Yeah,
Yugoslavia.
but it's in that area.
It's in the area of Yugoslavia. Okay.
But the former Yugoslavia, but it
Yeah,
was
because
never part of it.
Yugoslavia does not exist anymore.
Exactly.
Okay. Because I'm definitely looking at this map and I'm like, I don't see that. um, Yugoslavia. Okay, well, so I was looking in the right vicinity, I think. But thank you. So we are in this country was not a part of Yugoslavia. Are we in Hungary?
No, but it's kind of, yeah, around that area. It's yeah,
Okay,
it's pretty south.
it's pretty south. Okay, great. I've got some more guesses. So it looks like there are I have about 8 more guesses. We don't have that many questions, but we're going to figure it out. We're going to figure it out.
I can give you another. Do you want another clue?
No, no, no. No, no,
Okay,
no. You've given enough. You've given enough. Now it is your turn
my turn.
to
Okay,
guess
so
where I'm
it's
at.
like it's something like it's near China, something like Hell's Mouth or something. It's man-made. Um, is it is it in Russia?
It is not in Russia. However,
Okay,
I'll give you a clue about this place.
yeah.
This place, the country where this place is independent from the Soviet Union since 1991.
Okay, okay.
So you are even closer than you were before. Let me tell you something else about this place.
Yeah.
Okay. Only one person has entered into this fiery pit and lived to tell the tale. So in
Oh, wow.
2013, George Coronis became the first person to successfully descend to the bottom of the pit and return. For a National Geographic expedition, Coronis entered the pit and collected soil samples. He recounted the experience in the Smithsonian Magazine and noted that the flames would appear where he freshly dug into the canyon floor. The professional explorer and photographer needed special equipment to safely enter the canyon. This, by the way, all of these facts are from thetravel.com. Cool.
Cool. Okay.
All
Can
right,
I guess again, or is that next question?
the next question.
Okay.
So before this interview, you also stated that you made a lot of assumptions about what self-employment life is like, and you said it's very different. Can you tell us about what your initial ideas were about self-employment and how that's changed?
Yeah. Um, I think the biggest thing I've learned about running a business versus working for somebody is the work is half the work. And by that I mean what I actually deliver to clients as a fractional CMO or the strategy services that I offer, that's only like half of what I actually do. So there is so much more to that. And I used to work. I've worked both in house and in agencies when it comes to the marketing world, and so you kind of get into a certain way of working. But when you work for yourself, you could deliver your work in so many different ways. So, from being in an agency, I was used to kind of having a long-term relationship with a client or doing a project, and then kind of having a set number of things I would do for them every month for a set number of money, a set amount of money. And I assumed that kind of I would easily become this like mini agency coming out and doing that myself. But what I've learned is that actually the businesses that I work for, that model might not work for them. They might want a different approach. And so it's kind of half the thing I have to do is not just do my work for them and give, but also how am I going to do that? How am I going to package that? And so I think my biggest learning has been that um, I can, like, I know how to do marketing, but I've had to learn about how to package marketing and how to market marketing and how to sell marketing and how to run the back end of my accounts and all of that around marketing. So I think that's been my biggest lesson.
Yeah, yeah. And and so I think when it comes to self-employment and working for someone else, there are lots of folks who work for someone else first and then become entrepreneurs. And I can say this from my own experience. Becoming an entrepreneur, I brought a lot of the same mindsets and habits from the workplace, from the corporate workplace into entrepreneurship that did not serve me.
Mhm, mhm.
And I had to learn all new skills. Now, there were some things that absolutely helped, right? Understanding how a business works, understanding how to build and manage systems, understanding how to liaison and communicate with clients, and how to project manage. All of those skills were very helpful. But one of the big things, and we actually talk about this on our episode about wealth, was detaching my value from
Mm,
my detaching my
your worth.
salary and yes, and how much I was getting paid from my small idea about the value that I was actually delivering for the client. And so, because I was on this hourly model, I brought that hourly model into entrepreneurship and found out quickly that that's not scalable because I am a whole human, and 8 hours a day, if that, is not enough. Even if I work 40 hours a week, right? That's not enough to be scalable and sustainable when you start taking on 10, 15 different clients, right? You're going to need a different system for modeling your pricing, and that means detaching your value from how much you're actually getting paid, and really using this new value based pricing. And that was something that totally turned my world around. And it took a lot of digging deep into my own psyche about who I am, what I'm creating, the value that I'm delivering. How do I price that? These are questions that I had to contend with that I didn't necessarily have a model for coming out of the corporate workspace. And so that was a real big challenge for me. Right. And then the other thing that you mentioned too is just this change in how you orient yourself to the work and orient your life to the work, and creating new habits for, you have this set structure, you have these clients, you're getting paid this set amount of time, at 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. you're going to log in, or you're going to check in, or you're going to show up to a specific place, and by 5 you're leaving, right? Whereas when you're on your own, that structure doesn't necessarily exist. And so now it's not necessarily about recreating that structure, but it's about creating a structure that actually works for you,
Mhm.
that will keep you consistent and consistently delivering great value, that people want to pay for. So, yeah. Any other thoughts on that before we move on?
Yeah, I think kind of what you just said about creating a system and a structure that works for you. And I think that has been one of the other really big learnings that I've had. I would say that running my own business has taught me an enormous amount about myself and what I need to keep going and how I best how I thrive in doing this on my own terms, because in my career prior to that, I would always fit with what other people wanted from me. I would do what I was told, and we had a new client that does X, I need to learn about X. Or we have this gap in our team, can you fill it? Yes, why not? So there was just a lot of kind of chameleoning, and that isn't very helpful. And that is a lot of time what you just have to do when you start out, because you don't know what you're really great at, because there's lots of things you've never done before, and a lot of the time you're junior, so you're given the grunt work anyway, and you just have to do it, and you take what opportunities you can, even if they might not be the best fit for you. And so suddenly, as a business owner, I have this blank slate. And what am I meant to do with that? Where do I go? Like, and so as Clary was saying, a lot of the time we bring these preconceptions over from our prior lives, and we're like, okay, well, I'll do it this way. And then you find that maybe that doesn't actually work for you when you don't have the external pressure of a boss pushing you. Or maybe you do need to work in a slightly different rhythm, or maybe it's different kinds of work. So I think that's, again, it's about giving yourself the grace to do that. And it does take time. Like it takes a lot of time. So anybody who's in their mid-20s and they're like, why don't I have it together yet? I mean, of course, like none of us do.
Yeah. Yeah. And so a lot of it is giving ourselves, as you mentioned, the grace to grow with time. And with that being said, I'm giving myself the grace because we're 46 minutes in and I have not guessed where you are. We are not in Hungary though.
We're not in Hungary, we're south of Hungary.
And I'm just going to keep going south if that's
I'll give
okay.
you another clue.
Okay, cool.
It will slightly, yeah. It has, okay. It has a coastline with two seas, with the Adriatic and the Ionian Sea.
Oh, that's a really great clue. It shares a coastline with two seas, the
Yeah.
Adriatic and the Ionian Sea. Well, so that took me to Montenegro, which is what my initial guess was going to be. Are we in Montenegro?
So very, 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 very close.
Okay. All right.
Uh,
Well, I'm hot.
you are practically scalding yourself.
And I really am hot because I
Yes.
am in a very hot
Okay.
place.
Right. So I bet it's one of the stands. But there's a lot of them. So it was not part. Wait, we said it was not part of the USSR, didn't we?
We said that it has been independent from USSR since
Oh, so it
1991
was part.
at one
Yeah.
point. Yes.
Okay. So there's a lot of them, and there's many stands. Okay. So it's
It is
near.
one of the stands.
Oh,
It
it
is
is
one
one
of
of
the
the stands.
stands. Yes, it
Okay,
is.
that's helpful. Let's look at the stands. Okay, so it's deserty. Is it in Kazakhstan?
It is not Kazakhstan,
Okay.
but 70% of this place is desert. In fact, our clue is, and correct me if I already gave you this clue, that this is one of the least visited countries in the world. Did I already tell you that?
Yeah, you did actually.
Okay. Well, let
Would
me tell
you,
you something else.
uh,
Um,
okay. I mean, I have a few more stands to work through. Um, can I ask? Can I ask something specific? Um, does it border the Caspian Sea?
oh, well, let me find where we are. I think so, but let me just confirm that this is, in fact, the Caspian Sea, and it is. It does border the
Okay,
Caspian Sea.
okay. I have a guess for next time.
All right, excellent. Um, Despite the fact that you have a guess, I'm going to give you a clue about this place. anyway.
Okay.
So previous attempts have been made to extinguish this crater. So over the 50 years that the crater has been burning, multiple attempts have been made to extinguish it, but none have been successful. Oh, there are two big problems that any attempt to seal the crater must address. First, the raging flames, and second, the nearly endless stream of toxic gas that's constantly escaping.
It is a gas tap. Ah, they did tap into some gas. Okay.
Ah, all right. Next
Okay.
question. I think we're getting closer.
I think we are.
So let's talk about artificial intelligence. I recently saw a headline from CNN Business that said the tech sector is pouring billions of dollars into AI, but it keeps laying off humans. There were some 262,000 tech industry layoffs recorded in 2023 alone, and nearly 165,000 cuts the previous year. We're already more than 5,000 tech employees who've lost their jobs less than 2 weeks into the new year, 2024. What's your reaction to this statistic?
Mm. My initial reaction is that, I mean, that's really tough for those employees being laid off, and that sucks. Particularly when it's sudden and after a tough couple of years anyway. Um, my wonder is whether those two things, whether the AI investment and the layoffs are actually related. I also wonder whether, in general, the tech sector is just massively bloated and grew so much and in some ways unnecessarily, which was great for a lot of people. But then when this sort of thing happens, a lot of people suffer. So I think there's probably some stuff to unpack. I think in general, because the headline wants us to believe that AI is killing jobs, like that's, and I think that in the same way that the computer led to the layoff of thousands of secretaries, yes, AI is impacting people's jobs in a very real way. And I think a lot of us white collar workers thought we'd be safe from the robots because they couldn't like get to us in the same way that factory lines have been automated and all these other things. But now AI is coming for our jobs. However, I it's just another shift, and it's like it's unfortunate when that impacts you. Um, but it's also, I think, particularly for young people, it's a curve to get ahead of. And I think at the moment, technology is evolving so fast. The tools that we were using at the beginning of my career, and I've been working for like 16 years, it's not that long a time. I'm not that old. But still, I was scanning magazines into the scanner, which no longer even really exists, to then put them like into computer files. And from where we were then, like I didn't have a smartphone because they didn't exist. That was like I got a BlackBerry when I worked for BlackBerry at my agency, and that was kind of one of the before nobody used Blackberries anymore. So the point I'm trying to make is when you tie what you do too tightly to a specific technology, you're going to be in trouble because the technology is changing so fast. However, there's a lot of other things that you can do to make yourself future proof and kind of technology resistant, because it is my strong belief that all of these technologies, they are tools to help people do things. And in the instance of AI and a lot of this like chat gpt, it's people using tools to create content to communicate with people. But the key is that at both ends of that interaction, we have people. We have people who are not logical, who are emotional, who aren't as rational as they think they are, who want to feel things, who want to resonate with the brand, who want to buy the latest thing, who want to achieve their dreams. And it's people who understand that. We are seeing a lot of mediocre content come out of AI. Um, and the final finishing touches need to be people, to really make sure that that hits home. So it is an unfortunate reality that at the birth of this nascent AI revolution, a lot of people are being uh, laid off, but the marketplace will evolve, and people who are starting out their career and are in a really great position to sort of adjust for that. And it's something that everybody else is also going to have to deal with. It's the people I feel the worst for are the people towards the end of their careers who really don't want to have to deal with this new disruptive technology. They have their own USP, but I wouldn't be. It's just another thing we have to adapt to, and young people can get ahead of the curve.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I
Sorry, that
think
was a bit of a monologue.
no, that was really well done, very well said, and very thoughtful response. And I think I prior to this we were talking. I worked in the tech industry for almost 2 years, and as a part of my time there, I supported an AI organization, and I could tell you there was a lot of smoke and mirrors about the impact that AI would have on job security. But it was a question that came up all the time internally. And I think now we're really starting to see the reality, which is that we're always, especially in the United States, right? And let me preface that by saying those numbers were largely majority numbers from the United States. So, I'm the statistics that I shared isn't necessarily a national or global statistic. That's specifically the tech industry, right? Um, but I would say here in the United States, we are in a capitalistic economy buzzword where it's supply and demand. And as a business owner, we know that the less that I have to pay for the labor to produce the thing that I need to produce, the more profit share that I can take and use either to pay my people, to run my operations, or to pay myself. Right. And so w- whenever we see technologies, and you talked about this is going to be another shift when we talk about kind of the industrial revolution, um, factories, and we talk about I look at the automotive industry and how vehicles are being built. There are still people who operate those machines. There are still people who are in charge of making sure that, because even though machines are more accurate, I guess, than humans, they still make mistake, and they're also not perfect, right? It's imperfect technology made by imperfect human beings. And even when we talk about AI, what is AI? Well, AI is the result of imperfect human beings loading up imperfect imperfect data and information. And give me one moment.
No, you're absolutely right, Clary. Like that's the thing. All of these all of these technologies have been created by people, and they are only as good as the people who are running them. It kind of it's all these biases within AI, they're because we put them there, and we as people need to deal with them. Like there's not going to be a scenario where AI can do it from A to Z, kind of from start to finish, uh, because there is that human touch. Now, as a marketer, I love ChatGPT at the moment because it enables me to do a lot more in a quicker time. Like if I write a blog and then I want to get it out on all of the social media channels, maybe I do a video about it, and I want to create YouTube descriptions. ChatGPT can help me think, create that really fast with minimal brain energy because that's what tires. Um, so that's kind of the perfect sort of situation for it because I have done the value add of the initial creation, my original thoughts, perspective, and then AI can help me amplify that, particularly in the digital marketing world where you need keywords to be found by the Google algorithm and you need hashtags to be found on social media. Like creating all of that and checking all of those boxes takes time and it's exhausting. So let's use the tools, but it still needs that human spark.
Yes, and I also want to thank our guest, our special guest, Pfeiffer, who is my dog, for joining us today on the show. Um, so I wish, there are lots of things, there are lots of benefits of AI. And one of the things that I wish it could do right now is tell me exactly where in the world you are.
You're
We
so close. You're so close.
so close. I'm gonna take my guess and say that we are in. Let me just zoom out a little bit. Um, Albania.
Yes. 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 So this mountain range, they're called the Albanian Alps, but also they're called the Accursed Mountains. I know, right?
Tell us more about that.
I don't know why. Well, they're called that because I think so. I went to Albania a few years ago, and it is really hard to access these mountains. And there was one village that was meant to be incredibly beautiful, and we wanted to go there, and we had this little car, little European car, and we drove to the top of the mountain to be able to go down the other side into the village. And there was a road up to the top of the mountain, but there wasn't a road down the other side. And so we had to get a ride with a complete stranger in his car for the last of our cash. We had barely any cash on us, into this little village where you could only buy stuff in cash. So we managed to stay overnight and get some food and get back out. But it was the kind of place where like is simultaneously stunningly beautiful, but also you could imagine a horror film happening there. So I think that they are very, very inaccessible, which is where I think the name comes from.
Is this a photo that you've taken
No,
or a photo that you, okay,
no.
okay.
Um,
Well, thank you for sharing that story with us. It's really cool to see places that you wouldn't really think of, and it sounds like this is a spot where it's small and likely unknown by most people because of how inaccessible it is, and somehow you found your way there and you were able to have that experience, and that sounds like a worthwhile challenge to me, right?
yeah,
Is
that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So can I guess where you are?
I think you've got it.
Yeah. Is it wait a minute, I wrote it down. Turkmenistan.
It is.
Yes.
It
Okay.
is. Do you know where I am specifically? The name of this
No.
place?
No, what's it called?
Okay, so the name of this place is Gates of Hell.
Uh-huh.
Gates of
Okay.
Hell. So you were really close. You were dancing around it. Um, and it's one of the hottest places on earth. And I've given you some pretty cool facts about this place, but this place was it the pit first collapsed during an operation to identify fossil fuels several decades ago. So the fact that you got that on your first guess was really impressive. There was no fire burning. It was simply an industrial accident. So researchers quickly discovered, however, that the methane gas was escaping from the newly opened crater. Engineers attempted to burn off the escaping gas with a small fire expected to last only a few days. However, unknown to the team at the crater, this particular site is connected to a large reserve of methane gas and the major component of natural gas. So they started this pit. They tried to burn it off, and this this pit has been burning for, I think, what we said, 50 years now, which is a long time. Um, and we find that there may be gold in this place.
Oh,
And we did mention that there are some life forms as well here. Um, and scientists have sought out many different ways to snuff out the flames, and even have considered a nuclear bombs as a way to extinguish it. Hopefully, hopefully we don't
no,
uh,
that would
take
seem
that
like a
action.
bad idea. I mean,
Yeah,
why not tap that
yeah,
methane and, like, use it as natural gas?
yeah.
Look at that. Okay. Okay.
Uh,
Enough of discussion.
so yeah, so this is a really cool place. All right, well, let's close this out. We've got one more question for you. And it's a question that we ask all of the guests on the show. And that is, how would you describe success?
Hmm. Um, how would I describe success? Um, it's an excellent question because I think everybody has their own interpretation. I think there's a lot of inter definitions that society expects. Like success is it's wealth, it's money, it's power, it's whatever. I think for me personally, um, success is being able to live life on my terms, um, which is harder than you'd think. Uh, which is quite an individualistic goal, which is maybe why um, I've been in the US for 8 years now. Uh, but yeah, I think it's being able to have a life that is in line with my values, and I can I can live well with that and not and thrive, not just kind of survive. Um, yeah.
Yeah. It's well said. Success is living life on your own terms, but not just surviving, but thriving. Thriving on your own terms and in alignment, in a way that's in alignment with your values. That's beautiful. So, Georgina, tell our guests, um, where can they learn more about you, and what new projects do you have coming up down the pipeline?
So a couple of places, LinkedIn. So yeah, I'm there. I also have my website, Crabapple Communications. Another thing we didn't really talk about that has been really fun over the past couple of years is I've actually entered into a collaboration as a part of a little collective called the Alchemy Collective. And alchemy is spelled Alkimie, because we wanted to go with the Alchemy Collective spelt the normal way, but of course that everybody's taken that. So we went back to like the 16th century French version of the word to find something a bit different. So the Alchemy Collective website. And what do I have coming up? Well, professionally and personally. Personally, I am going to New Zealand for 3 weeks at the end of this month. So that's like a personal, exciting project. Professionally, we've been developed as part of the Alchemy Collective. We've been developing kind of these new packages to help smaller brands rebrand, start a new brand, all those kind of things for entrepreneurs. And that's been a lot of fun. So I'm excited about growing that this year.
Yeah. Um, Well, we're so thrilled that you were able to come out and take the time to join us on the show. Thank you so much for gracing us with your presence, with all of your insights and your knowledge and your humor. And I look forward to continuing our relationship as we kind of move forward into the new year and seeing you grow and thrive and seeing what you create next.
Thank you, Clary.
Thank you. And with that, guys, we are out.